So we were talking about authority. So
Mhm.
you are an emotional authority. You are a generator, so with a defined sacral, and you are an emotional authority. So how does your authority, like how does that process show up for you in terms of, you have sort of a two-pronged approach, right? You have your inner GPS, your sacral, but then you have your waiting for clarity as an emotional authority. So do you have an example of how that shows up for you, or like,
Yeah. Um, I'll use the example. This is an ancient example, actually before I knew human design. Just and that I wanted to say that like one of the ways to learn about your sacral is to look at your history and see when did you make sacral decisions that were a yes that worked out for you, or when did you override a no and it didn't work out. That's a way to start to sort out the difference and what it feels like when you follow the yes. So I was becoming a licensed psychotherapist, and I was coming out of school and I had to do an internship, and I had two different internships I was looking at. One was in San Francisco and one was in the East Bay, in the San Francisco East Bay. And they were both really good. And when I got the first one in San Francisco, I had a huge yes. Like, oh my gosh, I won the jackpot. I got in. It was this really hip LGBT, incredible internship. And I was like, oh, this is good. And then I found out I got the Women's Therapy Center internship. And I didn't know what to do because I had a yes for that one too, right? But I could only choose one. I had a yes for both. What was I going to do? So I waited. I waited and I actually asked the universe for a sign, which is one of the greatest things we can do as a generator is talk to the universe, right? And see what comes to us. So I had to wait, but I had the deadline to, decide was coming up. So there was a pressure that I had to, I was responding to the pressure. So I was like, please show me. I'm driving down the street. I'm asking this question, and the car in front of me, we stop at a stoplight. Car in front of me has the license plate WTC, Women's Therapy Center. It was like done, just like that. But I had to wait. I had to wait. And when I don't wait, if I follow that, because the yes comes up big, it comes up big like it's real, right? But it can change. Like Alexander's saying, it change, especially with the emotional wave, it changes. It changes. And I've got that 4130, so it's passionate. My yes is passionate. It's like, oh, it's emotional, passionate. So I have to let the full feeling of it show up, but not think that that's the end of the story. And I can have a strong no to something too, really big no. And then as I sit with it, as something changes, you know, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, this is a yes. But yeah, I'm a sucker for those buy it now, because I'll buy it and then I bought a $10,000 program, and then I had to get out of it because the thing that was actually a yes showed up like 3 weeks later. Fortunately, I could get most of my money back because it was in that month period, but it's tricky, especially with big ticket items.
mm,
It's tricky
mm.
for me.
Oh my
I-
goodness, Robin, you and I can have a conversation, an entire hour's conversation about the clarity of and the wait time versus a FOMO decision, and especially with those very limited time offers and the excitement that comes with, like, honestly, I have spent the equivalent of a small vehicle on coaching programs, and and exactly now, and the, I mean, maybe whether or not you're still on this journey, whether you can concur with me, I am working to get extremely granular with the body feeling that I have, that is a distinction between the FOMO excitement of something, especially when there's a deadline to purchase, and the clarity of the yes. You know, is that something, are you able to describe the finesse of the feeling in your body that differentiates between the yes and the, gotta jump in?
Let me speak to that for a second. And also, Alexander, I've been on this journey since 2003, 2004, and it's continuous. It doesn't matter where we are on it. We're still, like Marla is saying, we're still refining and getting to know it. We're continuously getting closer to understanding the responses. So yeah, for me, this level of distinction I have right now is, again, I spoke to it a little bit earlier, when I'm trying to get something outside of myself to fill a hole. That is a little yellow flag for me. If I think I need something to be better, to have something, if it's a deficiency I'm feeding, versus if I'm in my wholeness and there's like, it's almost like me going towards rather than me trying to get something, going like a natural moving towards. That's the closest I can make to the distinction right now. That makes sense?
Absolutely. And so I just want to mention, before, I'm very excited to talk to Heather about all of this, and then some about the emotional authority. There are some really good comments happening in the chat in the Facebook group. So I don't have time to go through them all. Many of them are responses to some of your answers and the wisdom that you all have shared. So wonderful when you have an opportunity to go back and review those, and perhaps there's even an opportunity to respond to the individual posters. But there's comments like juicy, trusting your sacral will confirm with you, hats off, Robin, you're a great storyteller. My sacral knows better, personal mantra, right? Talking about yumminess, right? And talking about the experience of the sacral. So lots of great feedback in the group. Heather, emotional authority as a sacral being.
Yeah, so listening to Robin, similar things. I have said yes to so many bright, shiny things, and then buyer's remorse will come in, and thank God a lot of them have been $25 and $50 things. It's so funny because I'll be watching something and I'll go, oh, I like their top. Oh, let me go. And then I'll go down a rabbit hole and look for their top, and it really is filling that void. It's something that, oh, I might look better if I wear that or something. But emotional authority for me, finding out that I had that emotional wave was so important. And I have the 659, and it's that tribal. And I'm still, Alexander, like everyone has said, I'm still discerning if it's my open will or if it's my 659 that is the response piece for me on some things. But what I have started doing, because I've taken on some stuff that I said yes in the moment when I was around a group of people, and then regretted it. A 2-year treasurer for the kids' elementary school kind of thing, and didn't feel that I could let go of it, because I didn't want to let anybody down. So my mantra has become, let me get back to you. It sounds great right now, but I need to sit with it. So I use that personally in everything now, because I have, it is, and it's a huge experiment, seeing what's worked out, what hasn't worked out. And so, yeah, I really allow myself to get out of other people's energy, and then decide. And one of my, and it's so funny because where I work, they're also my clients, and they always laugh at me because I'm like, let me get back to you on that. And they're like, oh yeah, that's the mantra you taught us. So, Yeah, so I think it really is riding out that wave and making sure that I don't get home and have responders remorse, really, in the moment when I'm around people, because I so easily want to help. I want to be there for people, and and yeah, and so I have to, for me, that's important. Um, and there are some things that I know in the moment that I'm just like, yes. And it really is like Robin was talking about. For me, it feels like I am putting my foot in the ground. It's that, yes, it's that stake in the ground kind of thing where I'm like, okay, I don't need to ride this out probably, but most things, especially when it's in connection to other people, I do make sure that I take it back out of everybody else's energy and decide and allow myself to kind of sit with it for a day or two. And yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I find as a defined sacral and emotional authority myself, at least one night's sleep already gives me a little bit more clarity. Because like you said, I get out of the aura of whatever's going on and need that space and that distance. And I've played with timing. I actually have 2 channels to the emotional authority. So I have had moments where, or I remember the first time I just learned about my human design. I think it's because I finally surrendered because I couldn't figure it out anymore. And human design showed up, and I had a potentially large decision like on the plate. And I just learned about emotional authority and sacral. And what it came down to was I wanted to decide. I was in a business that wasn't working for me. This is how it all precipitated, and dark night of the soul and questioning my value and everything. But I decided, okay, well, I either have choice A, stick with, where I was, or B, move to another entity. So do I stay with the support I have or move to another entity with a different support structure? And I remember thinking to myself, I will take as long as it takes. I'm gonna try this thing out. Like, what does this look like? And it was 3.5 weeks. And I know some people might be like, oh my gosh, that's so long. What are you talking about? And I'm like, I just said, nope, this is a big decision. I am going to take as long as it takes. And I'm also going to practice this human design thing and see how it shows up. And I can tell you the clarity I got the moment that decision landed was worth $1 million, because the decision really wasn't A or B. It was C. It was get the hell out of Dodge and leave this business behind. And so I really would love to impress on those listening. If you're a generator, type, if you're an alchemist or a time bender in quantum human design language, if you have that defined sacral and you have emotional authority, do not pressure yourself to come up with a decision. Thank you, Robin. Yeah, do not pressure yourself, because I can tell you that the richness of the clarity, it's like once you see, you cannot unsee. Robin, when you said you had that sign and you just knew, it was like, once you see, you cannot unsee. And boy, you are going to really, really be thankful you didn't rush the decision. So anyway, that's just my 2 cents as a public service announcement to sacral beings with emotional authority. So thank you for letting me get on my soapbox.